Maya leaned against the counter of the small-town cafe where she worked, her eyes flitting to the clock on the wall. The late afternoon crowd had thinned, leaving the space quiet, save for the hum of the espresso machine. She brushed a stray lock of hair behind her ear, her heart fluttering as the door chimed, signaling a new customer. There he was, Ethan, a man in his early 50s with a quiet air of confidence. His salt and pepper hair was neatly combed, and his tailored coat gave him a sophistication that stood out in their otherwise modest town. He offered her a warm smile as he approached the counter. "Afternoon, Maya," he said, his deep voice resonating in a way that sent a shiver down her spine. "Hi, Mr. Carter, the usual?" she asked, trying to keep her tone casual, though her cheeks flushed. "Please," he replied, his gaze lingering on her a moment longer than necessary. Maya prepared his black coffee, acutely aware of his presence. She wasn't sure when her fascination with him had begun. Maybe it was his wisdom, the way he carried himself, or the fact that he seemed so different from the boys her age who lacked depth. Whatever it was, Ethan Carter intrigued her. "Long day?" she asked, sliding the cup across the counter. "Always," he said with a soft chuckle, but seeing a friendly face helps. Her heart skipped a beat. Was she imagining the way his eyes softened when he looked at her? Over the weeks that followed, their exchanges became more personal. Ethan would linger at the counter, asking about her dreams, her ambitions, and the books she loved. She learned that he was a widower, his wife having passed years ago, leaving him to navigate life alone. There was a quiet sadness in his stories, a vulnerability that drew Maya closer. One rainy evening, as the cafe was about to close, Ethan walked in, drenched and out of breath. "Got caught in the rain," he said, shaking water from his coat. Maya laughed, handing him a towel from behind the counter. "Looks like you need something stronger than coffee tonight." He hesitated, then smiled. "Maybe some company?" The suggestion hung in the air, bold and unspoken. Maya's pulse quickened as she nodded. "Let me grab my coat." They walked together through the drizzle, their conversation easy and intimate. Ethan spoke of his late wife with a fondness that made Maya's chest ache. In return, she shared her frustrations about feeling stuck in their small town, yearning for something more. They reached a quiet park, the rain now a gentle mist. Beneath the glow of a lamppost, Ethan turned to her, his expression unreadable. "Maya, I don't know if I should say this, but being around you has made me feel alive again," he admitted, his voice heavy with emotion. Her breath hitched. "I feel the same way." Before she could second-guess herself, she closed the distance between them, her lips brushing his. For a moment, time stood still as the world faded away, leaving just the two of them in the rain. Ethan pulled back, searching her eyes. "Maya, this isn't simple." "I don't care," she whispered, her fingers grazing his cheek. "I've never felt this way before." What began as stolen moments soon blossomed into a secret affair. They met in hidden corners of the town, their passion igniting like a spark to dry kindling. Ethan showed her a tenderness she had never known, while Maya reminded him of a youth he thought was long gone. But the weight of their connection didn't come without complications. Whispers began to circulate, fueled by curious glances and subtle shifts in their demeanor. Ethan's friends questioned his late nights, while Maya's co-workers raised eyebrows at her newfound glow. One evening, as they lay entwined in his living room, Ethan sighed heavily. "This can't last forever, Maya," he said, his voice tinged with regret. "I don't want to hurt you." She traced patterns on his chest, her heart sinking. "I don't care what people think. I want to be with you." He cupped her face, his eyes filled with both love and sorrow. "And I want to be with you. But the world isn't kind to people like us." Their affair became a delicate balance of passion and secrecy. They savored every stolen moment, aware that each one could be their last. Ethan's wisdom and restraint clashed with Maya's youthful optimism, but their love burned fiercely, defying the odds. In the end, they knew their story was one written in the margins, a fleeting chapter that would leave an indelible mark on their hearts. Though their paths might one day diverge, the memory of their love would remain a testament to the beauty and complexity of the human heart. Maya sat in her small bedroom, the sound of the rain outside a soothing backdrop to the thoughts swirling in her mind. She traced the edge of the letter Ethan had left her the day before, a short, heartfelt note about how much he cherished their time together. It was risky for him to leave such tangible evidence, but it felt as if he couldn't help himself. Her fingers brushed over his words, "You make me feel alive." Maya, in a way I thought was no longer possible. A soft smile crept onto her lips as she recalled the way he had looked at her last night, his gaze brimming with both longing and restraint. Ethan had an uncanny ability to make her feel both cherished and desired in ways she had never experienced before. She folded the letter carefully, tucking it into a book of poetry on her nightstand, and grabbed her phone. Her heart raced as she typed, "Can we meet tonight? I need to see you." Her thumb hovered over the send button. Was it too much? Too desperate? She had sent similar messages before, but she was always careful not to push him too far. Ethan's hesitations were a constant reminder of how delicate their situation was. Before she could overthink, she hit send. The familiar rush of nerves washed over her as she waited for his reply. A minute later, her phone buzzed. "My place, midnight. I'll leave the door unlocked." At midnight, Maya stood outside Ethan's house, the faint glow of the porch light illuminating her path. She clutched her coat tighter around herself, her breath visible in the crisp night air. The door opened before she could knock. Ethan stood there, wearing a grey sweater and dark jeans, looking every bit the man who had captured her heart. His hair was slightly disheveled, as if he'd been running his hands through it while waiting for her. "You're early," he teased, stepping aside to let her in. "I couldn't wait," she admitted, her voice soft. He closed the door behind her, his hand lingering on her arm. "Neither could I." The air between them crackled with unspoken words and anticipation. Ethan led her to the living room, where a fire crackled warmly in the fireplace. 2 glasses of wine sat on the coffee table, and soft jazz played from the speakers. "You didn't have to do all this," Maya said, her voice catching in her throat. "I wanted to," he replied, his gaze locking with hers. "You deserve it." They sat close on the couch, the warmth of the fire mingling with the heat that always seemed to build between them. Ethan's hand found hers, his fingers tracing slow, deliberate circles on her skin. "Tell me something," he said, his voice low. "What do you see in me?" Maya laughed softly, shaking her head. "You really don't know, do you?" "I know I'm twice your age," he said, his tone serious. "I know you could have someone younger, someone with fewer complications." "I don't want someone younger," she said, turning to face him fully. Her hand reached up to touch his cheek, her thumb brushing over the faint lines near his eyes. "I want you. You make me feel seen, Ethan. You make me feel whole." He exhaled sharply, his eyes closing as he leaned into her touch. "You're going to break my heart, Maya. Only if you break mine first," she whispered, leaning in to capture his lips with hers. The kiss was slow at first, filled with all the tenderness they had both been holding back. But as her hands slid up his chest and his arms wrapped around her waist, the restraint melted away. Ethan pulled her closer, his lips moving hungrily against hers. She could feel the weight of his desire, the way his touch alternated between careful and desperate, as if he were afraid she might disappear. "Maya," he murmured against her lips, his voice rough with emotion. "Are you sure about this?" She pulled back just enough to look into his eyes, her breath coming in shallow gasps. "I've never been more sure of anything." He didn't need further convincing. With a swiftness that belied his age, he scooped her into his arms and carried her upstairs to his bedroom. The room was dimly lit, the moonlight streaming through the window casting soft shadows on the walls. Ethan set her down gently, his hands lingering on her waist as he searched her eyes for any hint of doubt. She smiled, her hands reaching up to cup his face. "Stop looking at me like I'm going to change my mind." "I can't help it," he said, his voice breaking slightly. "You feel too good to be true." Their clothes fell away piece by piece, each touch and kiss igniting a fire that burned brighter with every passing moment. Ethan's hands roamed her body, with a reverence that made her feel like the most beautiful woman in the world. When they finally came together, it was as if the world had stopped turning. Their breaths mingled, their bodies moving in perfect harmony. Ethan's name fell from her lips in a breathless whisper, and he held her closer, as if afraid to let her go. Afterward, they lay tangled in each other's arms, the silence between them comfortable and full of unspoken promises. Ethan traced lazy patterns on her back, his touch sending shivers down her spine. "You're incredible," he said softly, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "So are you," she replied, her fingers playing with the buttons on his shirt. "I've never felt this way before." "Neither have I," he admitted, "and that terrifies me." Maya propped herself up on one elbow, looking down at him. "Why?" "Because I don't want to lose you," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But I know how people will see us. How they'll judge you for being with someone like me." "I don't care what people think," she said firmly. "All that matters is how we feel." He smiled, though the whirring didn't leave his eyes. "You're stronger than you realize, Maya." Their affair continued to deepen, their connection growing stronger with each passing day. Ethan began to open up to her in ways he never had before, sharing stories about his late wife, his regrets, and his dreams. Maya, in turn, found herself sharing pieces of herself she had never revealed to anyone else. They found solace in each other, their love a sanctuary from the outside world. But the whispers around town grew louder, and the weight of their secret began to take its toll. One evening, as they sat on a bench overlooking the lake, Ethan took her hand in his expression serious. "Maya, I've been thinking," he began, his voice hesitant. "Maybe we should leave." "Leave?" she asked, her brow furrowing. "Start fresh somewhere new," he said, his thumb brushing over her knuckles. "Somewhere we don't have to hide." Her heart swelled at the thought, but doubt crept in as well. "Are you sure that's what you want?" "I want you," he said firmly, "and I'll do whatever it takes to make this work." Tears welled in her eyes as she leaned in to kiss him.